Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Grey Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 20th of April 2021. Alright, let's get into it, everyone. So, we hit 11 million ETH locked in DeFi on Ethereum just before. I was kind of going, I was on DeFi Pulse, sorry, and I was just looking around. I'm like, oh wow, 11 million ETH in DeFi. That's really cool. That's crazy. And then I went and looked at, I guess, like ETH2 and how much ETH is kind of locked there. It's about 3.94 million, so almost 4 million. So I guess we're pretty much at 15 million ETH locked in DeFi and ETH2, which at current prices, I mean, I don't even know how to do the math in my head, but I'm going to say it's many multiple of billions of dollars, locked into DeFi and ETH2 there, which is really cool. I mean, it's great to see ETH being used as more of an economic asset and continuing to be used as this economic asset, because you can imagine there's a lot of people who have ETH, right? They stack ETH, they buy it. I mean, a lot of you obviously hold ETH. I hope all of you hold ETH, right? Especially if you're kind of like watching me ramble on every day about it. But like we all want to use our ETH for things, right? Like whether that's putting it inside Maker and borrowing stable coins, like borrowing DAI against it, or putting it inside one of these other platforms like Aave or whatever, or Compound, doing the same thing there. Or we want to put it into a liquidity pool on Uniswap or on SushiSwap or whatever, right? There's just lots of things you can do with your ETH, and of course, you don't want to sell it, but you want to do other things in DeFi, and maybe you don't have any spare money left. I know I don't. So what I do is I just like to leverage my ETH. Now, of course, there's liquidation risk and all that sort of stuff where if you don't have like a safe liquidation price, the ETH price can fall fast enough to kind of liquidate you. So, I wouldn't recommend doing that for people that are kind of newer to the ecosystem. But for me, I usually keep like a very low liquidation price, like very, very low. And I'm talking like maybe a lot of the time it's under $500. So it would take ETH going to $500 for me to be liquidated, and I also do it through Maker, and they have this system called the peg stability module or something like that, or the price stability module or something like that, where or maybe it's called something else, maybe I'm mixing up my terms here. Oracle security module, I think it's called, where they actually give you an hour to save your position. So say you go underwater and you're going to get liquidated, it actually won't liquidate you for a whole hour. So you have an hour to kind of like pay back some debt, kind of I guess like pad it out with more ETH if you've got more ETH to lower that liquidation price. So that's how I kind of do it. But again, I don't recommend it for people who are new to this kind of like thing, new to these things. I would recommend doing your own research here and kind of seeing that. But you can also do other things with it, with your ETH, like pairing it with something and providing liquidity on Uniswap. Obviously there's risks there with like impermanent loss and things like that too, but there's no risk of kind of liquidation there. So yeah, but still good to see this. And it's really good to see the ETH locked in DeFi increase, even though the USD price of ETH is increasing, right? Because if you think about it, 11 million ETH locked, and this is an all-time high, is worth much more at $2,000 per ETH than it is at $1,000 per ETH, for example. So, some people kind of said to me, it's like, okay, well, wouldn't we expect the ETH locked in DeFi to actually go down because, it doesn't, not that much ETH needs to be locked to make up for the same dollar amount. And I'm like, well, I mean, maybe, but like, I didn't bet on that because just because the ETH value goes up doesn't mean that people don't want to use the extra money that they have. Like, if you have 100 ETH and ETH's price doubles, well, now you have like double the amount of money to work with on a USD basis. So, why wouldn't you, utilize that if you knew how to do it, and if you kind of like wanted to do it, you would definitely utilize it, because it would mean that if you're doing yield farming, if you're borrowing stable coins against your ETH, you can basically borrow, double the amount of stable coins and then get double the amount of yield. So to speak. So yeah, I just think that that's what people are doing as well. It's like, they're just plowing in all their ETH into these DeFi platforms. A lot of it, I mean, if we go to DeFi Pulse here, a lot of it is definitely kind of in the money markets, and Maker obviously leads here. Liquidity is a new kind of entrant here, which has like a lot of ETH in there actually. If you kind of look here, they've only been out for like a couple weeks. And Liquidity is basically a similar platform to Maker, where you can put your ETH in, borrow what's called LUSD and do whatever you want with that. And actually, I saw Justin Sun put in like $1 billion of ETH into this. So a lot of this, I think, is him right now. But still kind of wild to see here. And then obviously, like the other protocols here that are leading is obviously Maker, Compound, Uniswap, and then you go down the list here. It's interesting to see Aave doesn't have as much ETH as these other platforms. So I actually think that I think that Maker kind of leads here. I think Compound is also at the top because of liquidity mining. But I think Maker leads here because of the fact that you can get cheap debt, right? By borrowing stablecoins on Maker against your ETH, you're paying 5.5%. But if you were to do that through a money market like Compound or Aave, you would be paying, I think it's like something like 10% right now, and it varies, of course. And Maker's stability fees vary as well, don't get me wrong, but I think that's why you see so much ETH in Maker. And the other reasons being security too. And with Compound, it's not like Aave, where, because Compound's paying you comp token, so that makes up for the extra kind of like APY that you have to pay to borrow those stable coins. But still, Maker, I mean, is the cheapest right now. I actually think Liquidy's cheaper, but Liquidy's very new. As I said, only been around for a couple of weeks, so not as many people kind of trust it. And really, if you're kind of like borrowing DAI against your ETH, paying 5.5% isn't really much, right? Depending on what you're doing with it. Like if you're using that DAI to maybe speculate on other kind of coins and stuff like that, and you're expecting those coins to go up like multiple 100% in value, then paying 5.5% a year to borrow is nothing, right? It's negligible. But for me, I Maker is my platform of choice for the cheap debt and also for the security reasons. Like, it's been around forever, it's battle hardened. DAI keeps its peg relatively kind of like well. I mean, and when the peg does deviate, the system does everything in its power to bring it back to peg. So I've got those kind of security guarantees there as well. But yeah, anyway, good to see this. Good to see just the overall growth as well. I mean, even since just the start of this year, we basically, what do we start the year on? Let me just eyeing it here, like 7 million ETH and then up to 11 million. So in 3.5 months here, we got another 4 million ETH there. And then obviously a lot of ETH went into ETH2 as well. So yeah, really great to see this overall here. All right, so this is a bit of a funny tweet here from CZ from Binance. He basically tweeted out today, "I love Ethereum, I just don't like the high gas fees part." Well, I mean, we all know this is bullshit, right? Because I put out this tweet here and I said, if he doesn't like the high gas fees, then he should allow users to transfer their funds from Binance to the scaling solutions already live on Ethereum, such as DYDX and Loopring and all the other ones, right? And then I also said I also hope to see him support generalized scaling solutions like Optimism, Arbitrum, and Polygon if he really loves Ethereum. So, I mean, the way I am is like, I just look at what people do, right? I don't listen to what they say, because people can say anything they want. They can lie, they can cheat. No one really cares. I mean, it doesn't seem that anyone cares what CZ says, and he also blocks replies, so you can only quote tweet him. He just lets people who kind of he follows reply, so he kind of locks himself into an echo chamber here. But anyway, I just and I wrote about this in the newsletter today, where I basically said that this is a massive advantage that Ethereum has as a platform, is that it's credibly neutral, right? And what I meant by this, and what I wrote about in the newsletter, is that just because Binance isn't supporting Ethereum doesn't mean these kind of other exchanges aren't. Like, I expect Coinbase to support Ethereum's layer 2 ecosystem. Binance obviously doesn't want to, because they have their own platform to kind of pump up in BSC. But Coinbase isn't going to support BSC. Like, I don't imagine Coinbase bridging into BSC. I don't imagine Coinbase listing the BNB token, because Binance is their direct competitor. But from Ethereum's perspective, Ethereum doesn't benefit any one party. If all these exchanges support Ethereum, they're not basically supporting these another kind of central party, because Ethereum is credibly neutral. It's permissionless. Anyone can build and do whatever they want on it, and like, no one benefits except, really, if you wanted to kind of like point to I guess like one group of people that benefit, it's ETH holders. But the ETH holders don't have on-chain voting rights on Ethereum, and also the ETH holders are incredibly distributed. There is probably at this stage, there is probably millions of ETH holders, right? So from that perspective, there's no central party. The Ethereum Foundation doesn't even benefit from this. Yes, they have a nice stack of ETH, but it's not like it's a huge amount. I think the last time I checked, it was a few 100,000 ETH. And there's the total supply of ETH is like $115 million right now. So yeah, from that perspective, if CZ really loves Ethereum, then support the layer 2s. That's it. Simple as that. Funnel your millions of users into these layer 2s. Just have a bridge to Polygon. Like, I don't understand why they don't even have a bridge to Polygon. I mean, I do understand it. Like, don't get me wrong. And maybe me saying I don't understand is a wrong thing. I know exactly why they don't do it. Because of the fact that they're supporting BSC. And that's what they want to see grow here. But if that's the case, then stop with the bullshit, right? Stop saying you love Ethereum. Stop saying that you just don't like the high gas fees. Because CZ could take a lot of the load off Ethereum and put it onto these layer 2s by just supporting the bridges in and out of his exchange here. So yeah, at the end of the day, I just think that this is crap, and I'll call it out when I see it. I'm not going to sit back and kind of like just be nice about it. At the end of the day, this is war, right? These networks are in competition with each other, and there are a lot of vested interests that don't want to see Ethereum succeed, because having a credibly neutral platform means that these centralized entities or these incumbents can't take advantage of that, right? CZ has no power over Ethereum. He can't do anything to Ethereum. He can't control the network, and that probably annoys him. So that's why he created BSC, a basically centralized version of Ethereum that he can control. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. I won't harp too much on about that. And I actually really like the comments on my tweet here. Obviously, I have a very Ethereum kind of Ethereum heavy following, but it was encouraging to see people kind of like agreeing with me on this, and kind of like, even, I mean, Anti-Prosynthesis said here, obviously, it's not part of his short-term value extraction mindset to support these things. He just wants to squeeze this space for everything it's got. And I mean, I said, yeah, of course I know this, but I figured I'd still ask. I figured I'd still put it out there, because the signals need to be sent. People need to understand that, just because people say something, just because CZ says something, doesn't mean he actually kind of like means it, because he doesn't. He doesn't love Ethereum. He hates Ethereum. And from that perspective, I would just rather him to support layer 2 than just sit around and kind of like talk crap. At the end of the day, like, I'll just call it as I see it. But anyway, leaving it at that for now. On to more positive news. So Peter from the lead developer of Go Ethereum, the Geth client, a lot of you will know him. He basically put a tweet out earlier today saying, with Berlin behind us, with EIP 2929 included, which was what I spoke about yesterday, the EIP that basically increased the opcode costs to mitigate against DOS attacks. So with that included, and Geth by default running snapshots, I don't have any immediate objections to raising the gas limit to, say, 15 million. Not saying to or not to, just that I myself see no insta threat of doing so. Now, there's some context needed here. Firstly, Peter is the most conservative core dev when it comes to the gas limit. The gas limit is Ethereum's block size. By increasing the gas limit, you increase Ethereum's block size, you increase the size of nodes, you increase the state size, you make it harder for nodes to sync, right? We've all heard this story before from Bitcoiners, and it rings true. If you increase it too much, then only a small subset of kind of nodes can be run. This is what BSC did. They just increased the gas limit a lot, they shortened the block times to 3 seconds, and voila, you have like this scalable kind of system, but it's completely centralized because no one can run a node except these super nodes, which are all controlled by Binance. So that's why we don't want to just like increase the gas limit to 100 million. Yes, it would like make the fees like very low, maybe in the short term, maybe not in the long term, but it would basically centralize Ethereum at this point in time. So for Peter to say this, it's a great signal. And he's not like going crazy either. Like, the current gas limit is 12.5 million, so an increase to 15 million would be a 20% increase. And I'll be honest here, I don't think this is going to do a whole lot. I think maybe we might get some very short-term, fee relief, but it's not going to do anything. Like, it's this concept of kind of like, I guess, I mean, I know a lot of people, there are some people who hate like this kind of like comparison of induced demand, which is the concept of, if you like, the common kind of example here is that, highways. If, you have like a 3-lane highway and then you make it 4 lanes, it doesn't actually increase the throughput of the highway, because it'll just make more people drive, right? And then it'll just get filled up again. So it's this concept of like, no matter how much you increase it, the demand always outstrips the supply. And that definitely applies to blockchains, because there's so much demand to use Ethereum right now that the gas fees, I mean, they're over 200 gwei, and they've been that way for like 48 hours now, or even more, longer than that. So if people are willing to pay that high of fees, right, to use the network, then it doesn't matter how high you increase the gas limit here, it's just going to get filled up. Like, people are just going to use the network still, and the fees are going to be right back to where they were in the kind of like, maybe if you increase the gas limit enough, it takes a couple of months, but it's still going to get back there. So the long-term scaling for Ethereum is definitely layer 2, right? There's no question about that. If we want to retain Ethereum's decentralization properties, that is. But if we can safely increase it, we should safely increase it, and because it'll give us, I guess, like some, I mean, by increasing it, it also gives us a little bit of scalability gains for layer 2s as well, because layer 2s obviously use layer 1, and they're limited by layer 1 as well. They don't have unlimited scalability. They still rely on layer 1 to an extent. They just like expand the size there. So from that perspective, this would benefit layer 2s as well. But yeah, really, really great to see that from Peter, because as I said, he's the most conservative core dev when it comes to this, and if he thinks it's good to go, then definitely good to go here. One of the big mining pools, Bitfly, put out a tweet supporting this as well. And for those who don't know how the gas limit gets increased, it doesn't require a hard fork. Basically, the miners can vote up the gas limit. So essentially, I mean, the mining pools can basically just, set this kind of like, I think it's a client kind of command where they basically say, okay, well, we're going to increase the gas limit to 15 million. And then, if enough of them do this, then it increases to 15 million, essentially. That's like the TLDR of how it works. And obviously they don't want to increase it too much either. They do. I mean, as much as like I've given miners shit in the past, I think they do still act in rational self-interest, and then they don't want to kind of like cause any adverse kind of harm to the Ethereum network, because that could lead to a decreasing ETH price, which means their profits go down. So I expect them to always kind of, or at least, most of the time act in rational self-interest. And we saw like all their threats over EIP 1559, nothing kind of materialized there. As I remember I said this, like it doesn't make sense for them to do that. So from that perspective, I'm looking forward to seeing them just increase it to 15 million here. We can monitor the network, see how it's all faring, see if everything's going securely and safely, and then maybe we go to 17.5 million and 20 million. Maybe we just keep slowly increasing it. And as I said, the demand's still going to be there, and it's probably not going to do much for gas fees, but it's going to increase the overall scalability for layer 2s as well. So yeah, that's a really cool thing about it too. So I think this will go through, I don't know when, if there's enough signaling from the community, from the miners, from the core devs, it can probably happen. I mean, it can happen right now. There's no like limits on it. There's no waiting times. It could happen right now if we wanted it to. It just depends on people coordinating to make this happen. So we'll see. And you can actually monitor this on Etherscan. You can go to the blocks, and it'll tell you like the gas limit of that block, and you can actually see, and I think they've got a section that shows you like what miners are voting it up and which ones aren't, and what the average kind of blocks the gas limit is and things like that. So you can check that on Etherscan if you want as well. So big news today from Venmo. So for those who don't know, Venmo is basically a payments app in the US. I don't know if they're anywhere else, but I know they're definitely very popular in the US. It's owned by PayPal, but today they enabled users to buy and sell crypto on the platform. Now, I think we knew this was coming, and they had already promised this, but it wasn't activated yet. And they have 70 million customers, so this is quite a big deal. So currently they support BTC, ETH, LTC, and BCH, which is like the safe assets to support, I guess. And it's just hilarious because when I look at this, I'm like, LTC, that thing's just a cockroach. Like, it's just never going to die. I don't have anything against LTC, but to me, it's just pointless. But all these platforms keep supporting it. So I think from that perspective, it's just going to be around forever at this point in time. But anyway, this is 70 million people that now have access to buying these things through Venmo. Maybe there's, maybe not all of them are new to crypto. Maybe they've already bought some and they've already got like a Coinbase account or whatever, right? I'm sure there's overlap there. But this just gives them another way to do so, and it exposes it to more people. Like Venmo, I'm sure is popular with younger people, but I think it's used by older people as well, and they aren't as exposed to crypto assets. Like I think at this point, like the younger people, maybe even in their 20s, like that market is becoming like super saturated. I think like a lot of people in that age bracket already kind of know about crypto, already own a lot of crypto, and like the next frontier is getting the older generations into it and buying it, and these kind of apps do so, like PayPal and Venmo and all these sorts of stuff. So yeah, bullish news. It may have been the reason why we stopped bleeding today. Like the price was bleeding. ETH looked like it was going to go back to 2,000, but we kind of bounced up. And I'm not sure what it's going to be when you're watching this, but if I just check my chart, it's at about 2,200 right now. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know what the price is going to do in the short term, but this is only positive for the price of these assets, I think. And it's cool that more places are supporting crypto purchases here. So DeFi Saver released a new tool called the Recipe Creator, which they're calling an advanced DeFi transaction builder. What this allows you to do, it allows you to combine any number of actions from different DeFi protocols, as well as flash loans and swaps into a single transaction. So, you may have seen things about like flash loans on Ethereum where there's like, a lot of transactions happening in kind of like one transaction. Or a lot of, actions, or a lot of kind of like mini transactions happening within a transaction. So so to speak. And I mean, they're calling them actions here. That's probably the right term to call it. And then at the end of the flash loan, as long as like there's the money's paid back, then the transaction is valid. And people obviously use this to make profits, and sometimes it's used for exploits and things like that. But DeFi Saver makes this easy for anyone to do this with like a GUI, kind of a graphical user interface for people to make these recipes themselves, and to basically do this themselves. Not just with flash loans, but to do anything you want, like any kind of like thing you can think of where you string together a bunch of actions to form a transaction. You can do with DeFi Saver here. So if that's something you're interested in doing, definitely go check out the DeFi Saver platform here. And this isn't just their only product. They've got a bunch of other products out there. They're most famous for their product that allows you to basically set up ways to protect your positions in case they're going to get liquidated. As I was talking about before, you can get liquidated by borrowing funds against your collateral. DeFi Saver has tools for that as well. So yeah, definitely go check them out if you haven't already. So Stakewise announced today that they have enabled trustless staking for their new Stakewise pool, in the Stakewise pool for new deposits, I should say. The SWISE, which is their token, or SWISE token contract, has also been deployed ahead of the airdrop that they're doing, and the airdrop has been extended to include Stakewise V2 beta testers. So if you're looking for another kind of like staking platform, as I discussed yesterday, Coinbase staking is going live, and there's a bunch of other staking services out there. But if you're interested in one, especially a trustless one here, you can go check out Stakewise. They describe how it works here in this blog post. I won't go over it, and kind of like, I guess the trust assumptions and things like that, and anything got to do with, I guess, like, how they achieve what they do and how they're actually kind of doing it. So yeah, definitely go check them out if you haven't already, if you're interested in staking and things like that. But there's, as I've mentioned before, there's plenty of these services out there. A lot of them are centralized because of the one-way bridge. Some of them distributed, like Lido. Some of them offer trustless staking as well, but it depends on what they're doing in the background too. And as I said, there's other solutions like Rocket Pool coming out that are promising decentralized staking, but they're still not live yet. It hasn't been kind of like tested in the wild yet. They do have a lot of test nets that they've been running, and it's been working, and they recently redid their tokenomics, but we'll have to wait and see how that kind of plays out for sure. So Terence from the Prismatic Labs team, a team building an ETH2 client, tweeted out something today about the Beacon Chain had passed its 1 millionth slot. Now, this is, I guess, like a vanity metric. It just shows that the Beacon Chain has been live and active for 1 million slots, which is, I guess the Beacon Chain went live December 1st, 2020. So it's been, it's already been, 4 months now, or, over 4 months sort of thing since it's been live. And it's been running so smoothly, the ETH2 Beacon Chain. There has been, slashings as there should be if someone does something wrong, like double signing, or if people go offline, or if kind of there's like an activity leak due to people going offline and things like that. It's just been doing everything like just very cleanly. It's been processing validators in and out. It's been kicking people out that have been doing bad stuff. It's been inviting new validators in. It just, I actually, to be honest, like the fact that it's just gone so smoothly, and I've said this before, just inspires so much confidence in the researchers and developers that made this all happen. And this isn't to say that ETH1 isn't like this, it is. We've seen this play out. ETH1 is, I don't think the Ethereum network has ever gone down. There's been 0% 100% uptime. Even during what I mentioned the other day, the Shanghai DOS attacks at the end of 2016, where because we had the multi-client architecture, Parity was able to pick up the load after the Geth nodes went offline and was able to kind of, I guess, keep the network going. So from that perspective, the Ethereum engineers and researchers here are just like phenomenal, world class. And this is what you really want in these systems. You want 100% kind of uptime, right? You strive for 100%. You might not get it, but if you do get it, that's amazing. And the fact that the Beacon Chain got it, and this is like a brand new, novel kind of consensus mechanism, brand new code, brand new chain, is absolutely incredible. And it inspires so much confidence, and it means that the merge can go through with low risk of some security issues happening. The ETH1 to ETH2 merge. I know that the researchers and developers wanted to see the Beacon Chain live at minimum for 6 months before doing the merge, ideally 12 months, to make sure everything was running like super smoothly. Because once the merge goes through, obviously the ETH1 chain is going to be relying on the Beacon chain to validate its blocks and process the transactions and all that sort of stuff. So we want to make sure it all goes right. So yeah, the fact that we got to a 1 millionth slot with no issues at all, I think the network participation is quite high still. Yeah, 99.5.6%. This is just incredible. Like, I've covered this in the Daily Gwei data pump before about the stats around this and how this all works. But the fact that, the validators are just like online doing their job, we've had like perfect kind of running of the Beacon chain for so long is a huge testament to everything that we've been trying to build here. And a huge testament to the resiliency of these kind of protocols too, and the Casper POS implementation on the Beacon chain works as we expected it to. So yeah, really great to see that. I'll stop kind of like gushing, I guess. Like I go a bit fanboy here over these sorts of things because of the fact that, I think I do it because there was so much hate for ETH2 for so long, where people said it was never going to launch, it was never going to work, proof of stake is a pipe dream and whatever. And I was just like, just wait and see. And this is the same thing I say about layer 2s as well, is that layer 2s are already live, but just wait and see until what we've got like with Optimism and Arbitrum and ZK Sync with their EVM compatible layer 2s. Wait until those things go online. You're going to see how far we can get Ethereum scaling. Because when you really dig into these sorts of things, you see that it's not crap, right? It's not bullshit. It's actually true. And all of this stuff works. It's just that a lot of people don't see that because they don't want to dive deeper. And, you guys watching the refuel every day have all this information available to you. I try to relay this information to you as much as I can because you kind of like need to be at the forefront to keep up with this sort of stuff. So, and I hope I inspire a lot of you to educate the naysayers as well. Whenever they bring up something, I hope that, you maybe think back to something I said and kind of correct them. Because I think education in this space is the most powerful thing, but it needs to be a distributed and decentralized thing. It can't just come from me. It can't just come from just Bankless or, the Defiant, DeFi that, ETHUB. It can't just come from like, a bunch of things. It needs to come from a community of people. And I think that's Ethereum's main strength. So, but I'll leave it at that for now. The last thing I wanted to talk about was DYDX's growth again. I know I go on about them a lot, but it's just kind of like blown away all my expectations, to be honest. Like I knew, and I've been saying that layer 2 is going to blow everyone away for a while, but the fact that DYDX has been live for what, like 2 weeks now in a public mainnet, and they've already done over $300 million in trading volume on a platform that is brand new, right? That it needs to kind of get those network effects out there. Only has 5 assets. I'm expecting them to add another 2 assets this week because they said they're going to be adding 2 extra assets each week going forward. Is absolutely amazing. So yeah, great to see this growth from DYDX here as usual. And as I said, I can't wait to see them kind of scale this up to 100 million over 24-hour volume, right? And then up to 1 billion and even further than that. I'm most looking forward to DYDX basically disrupting, BitMEX and like these other kind of centralized perpetual exchanges. Because at the end of the day, if you can have the same scalability and reliability of a centralized exchange, but on on a decentralized exchange like DYDX, with the security guarantees of Ethereum, with self-custody of your funds, with being able to move in and out of things like really quickly, why wouldn't you use the decentralized option, right? There is no reason to use the centralized option then. So yeah, from that point of view, really encouraging, really exciting. And I'll leave it at that for today. So thank you again, everyone, for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.